Morning, Judge Hendricks.
Good morning, Chief Justice.
Are you well and relaxed, or are you a bit nervous?
I'm well, thank you, Chief Justice.
Not a little bit nervous.
No, not that much.
Okay, just a little bit, yes. Um, you were here before.
Yes, Chief Justice.
Now let's start a little earlier now so that you can relax. When did you become a High Court judge?
I started to act on the 1st of May 2003. I was permanently appointed on the 1st of November 2003.
Yes. And if I'm not mistaken, I'm the one who invited you to come and act.
That's correct, Chief Justice.
There had been some allegations against you, and I called you to satisfy myself whether they were founded or just one of these malicious rumors.
Yes, Chief Justice, that's correct.
And I asked those who allegedly knew what the true position was to come to the fore, to write letters, and they confirmed that it was all lies.
Yes, that is quite correct, Chief Justice.
And by the way, when did you say you were permanently appointed?
On the 1st of November 2003.
2003.
Yes, Chief Justice.
Now, how is the division doing? You know the primary concerns. How is the division doing?
Chief Justice, the division is doing quite well. We are a complement of 6 judges. The jurisdiction of the division has increased because Klerksdorp and Potchefstroom was also added, but the complement of judges did not increase.
When was Klerksdorp and Potchefstroom added?
2017.
2017.
Yes, yes.
Was Ventersdorp part and parcel of it, or was it part and parcel of the Northwest all along, or was it added together with them and Christiana?
It was added. It was added together.
Yes.
Yes, Chief Justice.
But in terms of workload, I mean, did the addition of those districts make any difference?
Yes, the workload has increased, Chief Justice.
Are you in a position to give a sense of the extent to which it has increased?
I don't have the statistics, but almost on a weekly basis, there is 3 circuit courts running, including a circuit court in Klerksdorp and Potchefstroom.
Yes.
Either Klerksdorp or Potchefstroom. So the workload has increased, and as I said, the complement of judges had not increased.
Yes. Now, in your own words, tell us why you believe you are the right person for this position.
Chief Justice, I have 16 years of experience. I acted in 2012 and 2014 as judge president in the absence of the judge president. I also acted as deputy judge president when appointed, and de facto, when the judge president is not available, I, as the second most senior judge in the division from time to time, take the responsibility of acting.
Yes.
I have a wealth of experience that I gained over the past years as acting deputy judge president as well as acting judge president.
Yes.
And I believe that the position would give me the platform to support the judge president in the execution of her duties, not only as far as the division is concerned, but also the judiciary as of the Northwest as a whole.
Anything else? you want to say, or you know, this is the one opportunity where you are allowed to brag and nobody will accuse you of pride or arrogance.
Yes. Chief Justice, for 15 years, ever since the Chief Justice was still the Judge President of the division, I have been mentoring acting judges. I do it and I'm still doing it. Some of the judges were the acting judges took up permanent appointment or were permanently appointed. I am doing the mentoring, including the mentoring of women judges.
Like who?
For instance, the judge who nominated me, Judge Jaje, is the most recent judge that was permanently appointed after the April 2017 interviews. She was mentored by myself over a period for a year and a half when she was invited by the Judge President to come and act as a judge. And I'm still in the process of mentoring. Even yesterday, whilst in the absence of the Judge President, I was in the division and I gave guidance to Judge Jaje with regard to a certain matter.
Yes. JP?
Good morning.
Good morning, Jay.
The role, is it on? Yes, thank you. Besides the role that you play in the division of mentoring, acting judges and so on, are there any other responsibilities that have been assigned to you as a judge or senior judge in the division, as well as in respect of the heads of courts?
Yes. Thank you, Judge President. There are other duties assigned to me. I am deputized as a member of the Committee of the Heads of Court, responsible for the security at courts. I am also doing monitoring. I am currently on the committee that is overseeing the renovations of the Northwest High Court.
Thank you. You have mentioned that we have our workload has increased.
Yes.
Although the number of judges has not increased. And I just want to remind you that we've been 6 judges ever since that division has been established, and Rustenburg and other rationalization came while the
Yes.
Chief Justice was still the Judge President, and again, Klerksdorp was added now.
Yes.
Now, usually you would be doing circuit courts, and we are forced to put more than or minimum 3 cases for the circuit. And in most cases, how do you manage to finish those cases within a week? Because that is the position that we are experiencing in our division.
Yes. Thank you, Judge President. It's all about time management. When on circuit, I cause the court to start at 9 o'clock. Lunch is also a short adjournment of 15 to 20 minutes. I don't take tea breaks, only comfort breaks. And that helps a lot in time management. The other thing that I do is I let 2 cases run on this very same day. In the morning, start with the one, and in the afternoon, the other one, so that parties don't wait too long, especially those on private brief, who are briefed to be there for the week, so that they don't sit and wait for the court to be available in order for their cases to be heard. If time is managed effectively, I have realized that it enables a presiding officer to finalize more cases in the shortest possible time.
Lastly, how do you hope to improve the performance of our court, including our the Judge President's duty of overseeing the lower courts?
Thank you, Judge President. First of all, it's all about monitoring. Seeing that the Judge President is the head of the whole judiciary, I would, in my capacity as Deputy Judge President, assist the Judge President with monitoring, going to the various lower courts, magistrate and regional, district and regional, in order to inspect what is transpiring, to find out whether there's any challenges that they face, and how to address, and also to advise the Judge President accordingly.
Thank you, JP. Premier?
Thank you, Chief Justice. Good morning, Judge Hendricks.
Good morning, Premier.
In current times, society is very, very hungry for seeing that justice is meted out. And therefore, increasingly there is a need for lawyers, for judges who not only are seen to be applying the law, but who really come across in doing so in a progressive way, such that the historical social injustices are addressed. Are you able to share with us one or two landmark judgments, if you would want to refer to them as such, where you think you have demonstrated very clearly, not only you putting the law into practice, but clearly you soothe the hearts of those members of society who have been brutalized as a result of the perpetuation of the scourge of apartheid?
Yes, thank you, Premier. The case that comes to mind is State versus Nel. That happened in the Swartruggens area in the Skierlik informal settlement, where Mr. Nel went on a rampage and to shoot and kill people of the informal settlement. I presided over the matter. He was convicted, and I sentenced him to life imprisonment. There was appeal to the Supreme Court of Appeal, which was unsuccessful, and that is after I refused leave to appeal. But there was also an application or petition to the Constitutional Court for direct access. And that has everything to do with the fact that Mr. Nel at that time was 20 years of age. And the question was whether youthful offenders such as Mr. Nel could be sent to life imprisonment. He unsuccessfully appealed, and that, in my view, is one of the landmark cases. Another case that comes to mind is State versus Nkuna. But that has to do with a person, an accused person, Mr. Nkuna, who killed a police officer, Constable Rasuge. The body was not found, and the question was whether a conviction could follow in the absence of the body. There was a lot of circumstantial evidence. And analyzing the circumstantial evidence, I came to the conclusion that the guilt of the accused was proven beyond reasonable doubt. Afterwards, the body of the deceased was discovered in the premises of the accused when there were extensions to be made to the house.
Thank you very much, Chief Justice.
Thank you, Premier. Commissioner Dodovu?
Thank you very much, Chief Justice. Good morning, Judge Hendricks.
Good morning, Commissioner.
Are you good this morning?
I'm well, thank you.
Okay, some few questions from my side.
Yes,
Do you agree with me that the Northwest Province is largely rural and it is governed by the traditional leadership?
that's quite correct. Yes, Commissioner.
And that in the course of your work, you handled cases related to that area.
That is quite correct.
What are the two main cases that you handled in this particular respect that you can share to this commission?
With regard to
The traditional leadership.
traditional courts.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. There was one matter which was sent on review where the magistrate sat on appeal from the tribal court and he sat alone. The question was whether it is indeed correct. In terms of the act, there must be assessors appointed. By then, there were no assessors appointed by the minister, and the proceedings were set aside. However, I'm of the view that the traditional courts can still play a very important role in dispute resolution. The traditional courts can be aligned and traditional leaders can be mentored to give decisions in line with the Constitution. So I think the traditional courts can still play a vital role in the adjudication of matters.
There is a case that comes to my mind around the Bakhatla Bakhafela community, rural community,
Yes.
that you handled. And there are two academics who attacked you,
Yes.
who criticized you quite profoundly about the judgment where you restored the leadership as against the community, and in that instance, you failed to appreciate the democratic values which must be underpinned within the rural setting. What is your comment on that?
Yes. The Constitutional Court, there were 3 matters that served before the Constitutional Court from 3 different judges of our division, including myself, the now retired Judge Landman, and Judge Huele. These are the 3 matters that served before the Constitutional Court. The Constitutional Court did set aside the decisions in those 3 matters. There was a majority judgment of 8 judges, and there was also a minority judgment of 2 judges. The minority judgment is that of the Chief Justice and then Judge Nkabinde, who disagreed with the majority. Now, being set aside and a more liberal approach has been proffered by the Constitutional Court in that matter. As the apex court, I'm bound, and we all are bound to follow it in terms of the stare decisis principle.
Okay. My last point. You are here for the 3rd time for the same position.
Yes.
What improvements you can demonstrate to this commission that because you applied on 2 occasions and you are unsuccessful, why should we now believe that you are successful? What are the differences between then and now?
Not only is there a passage of 2 years that elapsed, I have also had the opportunity again to act as Deputy Judge President and Judge President in the meantime, where I've demonstrated my capabilities of being in a leadership role.
I beg your indulgence, Chief Justice. My last one, very last one. You have now incorporated Klerksdorp and Potchefstroom
Yes.
within the division, and I'm coming from Klerksdorp.
Yes.
And one of the foremost difficult problems in Klerksdorp is gangsterism. What is your view on gangsterism, and how do you deal with gangsterism, and how do you handle cases of that nature?
Yeah. My view is, in a democratic society, we cannot allow gangsterism in any form to prevail. I'm of the view that the justice system should be implemented in order to root out this gangsterism. There are cases in Klerksdorp, there are currently cases on the roll in Klerksdorp where gang violence was, people are prosecuted for gang-related violence. They are currently, I know of 2 matters that are currently serving before the court. Not before me personally, but it is in the High Court, in the Circuit Court.
Honorable Justice.
Thank you so much, Honorable Dodovu. Just by the way, Judge, are you aware that SAGE has been offering training to traditional leaders in their adjudicative roles?
Yes, Chief Justice, I've heard of it.
All right. Commissioner Nyambi?
Thank you, CJ. Morning, Judge Hendricks.
Good morning, Commissioner.
Linked to the previous question, is there any particular significant thing that is a personal development that you might have accumulated between the previous interview and now that you might want to share with us?
Thank you, Commissioner. Yes, I've been exposed to leading roles. The Judge President has assigned certain tasks to me, to which I have elaborated previously, which I, in my own opinion, dealt with decisively, and I'm well aware of the fact that there is improvement.
Thank you. My last question, it's linked to the one raised by Prof. Mkhoro. It's almost 15 years after we have sentenced Mr. William Nkuna
Yes.
to life imprisonment for the palliative killing of his police girlfriend, Ms. Rasuche.
Yes.
Out of what is happening now in the country, do you feel that the law is an effective deterrent against gender-based violence and femicide?
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. Yes, I believe that the law is fulfilling its task in as a deterrent. If properly applied, it much depends on the system itself, whether perpetrators are arrested, brought to book, brought before courts, and that the justice deals with them decisively.
Thanks, Judge. Thank you, CJ.
Thank you, Honorable Nyambi. Honorable Singh?
Thank you, Chief Justice. Good morning, Judge Hendricks.
Good morning,
Thank you.
Mr.
Thank you. I've got 2 questions, and I think I'll ask both of them, Chief Justice, if I may. One relates to the questionnaire, Judge Hendricks, where in 16.5 and 17 you refer to a reserved judgment
Yes.
and a partly heard matter. If you can just give us an update on that.
Yes.
And the second question, I think, relates to the objections that we have received to your appointment. And I think you're well aware of the objections.
Yes.
And if we had to ask all the questions that the objector wants us to ask, we'll probably be here until tomorrow morning just with you. So perhaps you can just give us a brief response to these objections. We've received them before, but probably you can just give us an update on that as well. Thank you, Chief Justice.
Thank you, Mr. Singh. Commissioner Singh, Chief Justice, with regard to the reserve judgment, that was a judgment that was reserved. I wrote the judgment and it is handed down. So that was disposed of. With regard to the parted matter, it's a matter that originates from Stella. It is still parted. The accused at one stage, on 2 occasions, had changed his legal representatives. And we are now at a stage where the state case is going to be closed on the next session. So there is a lot of progress that has been made as far as that is concerned. With regard to the objections, there is an objection by Mr. Monshiwa. Now, this has a history. Mr. Monshiwa applied, in actual fact, instituted an action. He was unsuccessful. He then applied for leave to appeal, which was also refused. He petitioned the Supreme Court of Appeal, and that was also refused. Now, as a result of what Mr. Monshiwa apparently or allegedly heard from Ms. Sitlako, who was the registrar, there is now a perception and that Mr. Monshiwa wants to settle scores by, in actual fact, lodging attempts, writing letters of complaint, and addressing not only myself, but the whole Northwest Division. The Judge President is also one of the judges mentioned, as well as Judge Jaje, there's acting Judge Chwaro. All these are mentioned by Mr. Monshiwa in his objection. In coming to the objection, perhaps I must point out, Commissioner Singh, that when you have regard to Part A of the objection, it has anything and everything to do with a meeting that was arranged by the Judge President in her chambers, and following from there, there were certain investigations to be done. Now, Mr. Monshiwa raises certain questions, as you pointed out. Now, I don't know whether this interview would be transformed into an inquiry, but certain questions were raised. First of all, I wasn't part of the meeting. Secondly, there is no duty on me to report any misconduct by the Judge President to the Judicial Service Commission, as he called it, and or the Judicial Complaints Committee of the Judicial Service Commission. So with regard to that, I think I'm not the best person to answer to all these allegations. Secondly, there's the issue of inviting Advocate Chwaro to come and act. Now, it is the prerogative of the Judge President to identify people that can come and act. And Judge Chwaro was invited. Now, because of the previous alleged dealings that Judge Chwaro also had with Mr. Monshiwa, he objects to the fact that Mr. Monshiwa was invited as to come and act. Mr. Chwaro, sorry. I beg your pardon. Mr. Chwaro was invited to come and act. Now, that being the case, I don't think there's any merit in that. Let me go further to what he says about Judge Jaje. Oh no, before moving on, one of the points is that Judge Chwaro, myself, and the Judge President reside in Leopard Park, in one area. But he exclude the fact that Judge Landman also resided there, one of the colleagues who retired. And there are also other practitioners, other advocates who reside in Leopard Park. So I don't know what he intends or the innuendo by us staying together in the same vicinity has everything to do with what transpired. But coming to Judge Jaje, there's allegations that because I'm befriended to Judge Jaje, that is why the commission appointed Judge Jaje. And her appointment, in his view, was premature. He even described her as the worst junior judge in the division. Now, if you have regard to the tone of the objection, if you have regard to what all that is said in the objection, I don't know whether the commission want me to go in detail with regard to each and every allegation that is contained therein. Suffice to state that he's making the point that At a previous interview, the then Minister of Justice, Mr. Masuta, asked whether I would assist in providing the transcript. Mr. Monshiwa wrote a letter to me. I called the registrar, Mr. Mokiti, and directed him to assist Mr. Monshiwa. I wrote a letter to Mr. Monshiwa informing him that he should direct the further correspondence and a request to Mr. Mokiti, to whom I have given the directive to assist. On Friday, I asked Mr. Mokiti, the registrar, whether Mr. Monshiwa came back to him and take up the transcription of the record, and he informed me that he did not. Mr. Monshiwa, if you look at his letterheads at the bottom, he's not a lay person. He has an LLB. He is a LLM student. He's also a student at a technicon. I think it's an engineering. So he is not a lay person. More so, from previous correspondence, Mr. Monshiwa knows how to go about to obtain a record. There's even a Mr. Nell that is mentioned that was part of the previous service providers as far as transcription services were concerned. And he made all sorts of allegations, even with regard to Mr. Nell. I hope that I've covered everything, Commissioner.
Chief Justice, thank you very much. I don't think we'll need a detailed explanation, but we need the comfort that you have always acted fairly and impartially in this matter with Mr. Monshiwa. That's the kind of comfort this commission would require. And can you give us that comfort?
Yes, undoubtedly so.
Thank you, Honorable Singh. Honorable Minister.
Good morning, Judge Hendricks.
Good morning, Minister.
With regard to the Klerksdorp, I've been advised that there is an old unused magistrate building there.
Excuse me, Mr. Minister, I can't hear properly.
I've been advised that there is an old unused magistrate building in the Klerksdorp. And there is a discussion in the Northwest whether, with the current process or project of rationalization, for it to be used as a kind of a local sitting or something of your court, and also looking at Rustenburg. And so I just want to get what is your view in that regard, and how do you think that should be done, and also how will it help in terms of access to justice?
Thank you, Mr. Minister. I had difficulty to listen to hear you properly, but I will try and respond. If there is an old building available which can be renovated, surely it can be used as a local seat, especially in Klerksdorp, to serve Potch in Klerksdorp, if that building is available. I am of the view that in future there can be local divisions established for the Northwest with seats in Klerksdorp and Rustenburg respectively, from where the bulk of the work is generated. There is in Rustenburg also an old court building, Mr. Minister, which is currently occupied by the police, I'm told, which can be made available after the lease of the police services expired, which can also be utilized. It will be of great assistance because in Rustenburg, the court is in a dilapidated state. There is problems with accommodation. And if we can be housed in Rustenburg, in the old court building, which can later be transformed in a local seat, it will indeed help a great deal. Currently, the circuit court for the Rustenburg area is held at Mogwasi. which is a distance away from Rustenburg. In order to serve the Rustenburg area, I'm in favor that accommodation be provided in Rustenburg itself.
Thank you. I hear that the judge president assigned you from time to time with regard to infrastructure.
Yes.
And it does seem that you have played a role there. What has been your role in that regard also in terms of modernization in your court? What has been the role that you have played, and what do you think should be done to modernize the court infrastructure, to digitize it, and the use of modern technology so that there is efficient administration of justice, and the practitioners, judges, and the community at large can be able to have some kind of interaction with the virtual and new infrastructure in terms of technology?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Minister. Yes, Mr. Minister, not only myself, but also Judge Jaje, we were sent to be part of this e-filing system, if I may call it, where cases of where documents and pleadings can be filed electronically. Now, I'm aware, and we are now in the process of the pilot projecting of the e-filing system. The Gauteng division, as well as our division, was chosen as pilot projects. A help desk has been set up in our courts, and we are going to invite the practitioners, especially the attorneys, to be part of and to be taught how to file their pleadings electronically. I think it will go a long way in modernizing the system. I was also privy to be in Johannesburg when a pilot project was actually run in court, and I sat in court. Well, by then, the documents of a particular case was scanned and it was made available. The judge sits on the bench with his computer in front of him, and he can electronically access the contents of the file.
So you are now running a pilot project. My few days experience in the department have taught me that there is no clear phases and end date with this digitization project. So I want to find from your division, do you have some kind of timelines, when, at which phase, by which date, and by when will this fully fledged, modernized court, where we can see e-filing, see e-dockets, summons, and the various things that the courts use being fully operational?
I don't have a specific date, Mr. Minister, when it will be fully implemented. As I said, it's a pilot project, which is still in the child's shoes and are still experiencing teething problems, but we are working on it. It is an ongoing process, but as a pilot project, it will be rolled out to other courts, I presume, in the near future. And I think that it will be very helpful. People will be able to file documents from wherever they are electronically, even at any time of the day.
Okay, I understand the other part of the full operation. Maybe let me help you.
Yes.
With the pilot project, when do you intend starting and maybe completing and seeing the outcomes just of the pilot project? Let's leave the bigger picture.
Oh, yeah, I didn't get that part of the question. Mr. Minister, we had a PEEC meeting on the 6th of September, where it was resolved that with the start of this term and from next week onwards, we will deal with the invitation of practitioners, especially attorneys, to be part of the project. And I think within the next 2 months, it must be up and running.
So what are measures that you have put in place so that the stakeholders that you are dealing with, like attorneys, advocates, and members of the community who might want to access your infrastructure are aware of this project and also they participate?
Mr. Minister, it's still an ongoing process. As I said, it need to start within the next 2 weeks. So the Judge President will give directions. When will we convene? When will we invite the stakeholders to come and participate? And how long the period will endure?
Thank you, Chief Justice.
Thank you, Mr. Minister.
Thank you, Minister. Maybe just for the benefit of commissioners, there are two processes here.
Yes.
There's an outdated system that the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development has had in the courts that is not able to accommodate our court modernization system, in relation to which we've set up a committee as the judiciary, chaired by Judge President Mlambo here,
Yes.
to run a pilot project. Now, the process is driven from the Chief Justice's office in liaison with the committee. So there is nothing that an independent Judge President can do, because it's a well thought out court modernization system that is not independently driven by the courts, but by the National Committee. So that's how it is. It's
Thank you.
different from what the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development is on its own doing, although there are meetings from time to time between the two committees.
Thank you, Chief Justice.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Chief Justice. No, I just wanted to, for the clarity of the House, just for us to get comfort that we are participating in the process of modernization. I think I'm fine with that.
Thank you.
I do not want to create an impression that I wanted you to be running around with the project alone. I just wanted to get comfort that you are involved in this process. You have got knowledge of a project of modernization.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Minister.
Advocate Ngosi Thomas, SC.
Good morning. Thank you, Chief Justice.
Good morning,
Good
Commissioner.
morning, Judge Hendricks.
Good morning,
It's
Commissioner.
always a pleasure to see you.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Mine really is a clarity-seeking question because we've interviewed you before and you're well known to some of us.
Yes.
But one of the law bodies, what do they call themselves? The DGRU, they assist the work of this commission.
Yes.
So in assisting us, they pointed out certain of your judgments. They pertain to the Pilane line of cases. And what emerges from there is that your judgment has had far-reaching consequences. And those consequences are such that they constitute an affront to tribal authorities' accountability duties. And then a commission of inquiry came along on the 20th of August 2019 and confirmed that indeed a certain Khosi Pilane had been embezzling funds. So it would appear that there's an attempt to draw a link between your judgment and, of course, how this chief behaved himself in the way of embezzling funds and so on. Now, my question to you is whether this criticism that's been levied to this line of cases, whether it's meritorious or what are we to make of it?
No. Thank you very much, Commissioner. First of all, there are two matters that served before me. First, there was a criminal appeal in which I sat with Judge Hwele, in which Pilani was convicted. Now, there was no evidence that proof in a criminal trial that his guilt was proven beyond reasonable doubt. There was even a witness that testified, if my memory serves me well, a certain Mr. van den Berg, who clearly stated that he was in charge of the day-to-day running of the business. So if the guilt of the accused wasn't proved beyond reasonable doubt, myself and Judge Gwele, in our judgment, set aside the conviction and the sentence. Now, with regard to the far-reaching consequences of the Pilani, I already addressed it as the matter which served before the Constitutional Court as well. Now, there is no link between the two. There is no innuendo that can be sustained. There's nothing that I need to answer or account for as far as those matters are concerned.
So in other words, the criticism is unmeritorious
Yes.
as far as you are concerned.
That's
Thank you.
correct.
Thank you. Thanks, Chief Justice.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Mpofu.
Thank you, Sir. Good morning, Judge.
Good morning, Commissioner.
Thank you. Yeah, you know that this position that you are applying for is more of a leadership position,
Yes.
and to some extent, administrative needs your administrative capacity, maybe more than your judicial prowess. Now, given that you've been asked about the problems, correctly asked about the problems in the division in relation to the judiciary in the division. Now, I would like you to please, if you may, particularly because you have acted as DJP, outline some kind of detail what problems you may have identified in the magistracy, in particular in the province, because that's where most of our people interact with the law. And just a follow-up to what the minister was saying, but more broader than Klerksdorp, as to what issues and interventions you would bring to bear as if we approve your appointment at that level in particular.
Yes. Thank you, Commissioner. Some of the challenge that is faced is that court time is, for example, not used optimally. A proper monitoring of the magistrates can alleviate the backlogs that are experienced in the magistrate courts from time to time. So I'm of the view that as the Deputy Judge President, in my role as Deputy Judge President, to go and assist and help monitor the magistrate court to see to it that justice is accessible, speedy resolution of cases are done, access to justice is complied with in the shortest possible time. I am of the view that not only should reports be made in the Provincial Efficiency Enhancement Committee meetings, but on a regular basis, there must be visits to the magistrate court to find out what challenges the magistrates encounter and how it can be resolved. As acting Deputy Judge President, for example, whilst doing circuit court in Mokwasi, I asked the head of court what challenges she experienced there at Mokwasi and what can be done in order to alleviate the problem, and report back on the Judge President if there are any of such challenges. I also asked the regional magistrate in that area, Mr. Parko, whether there are backlogs in the regional court and what can be done to alleviate the problems. So, in my capacity as Deputy Judge President, I will utilize the opportunity to visit these courts on a regular basis in order to monitor and to get any challenges that may be faced from time to time in order to get it addressed, and not wait for the PEEC meeting, which is held once a term.
Can I just a follow up before my second question? Yes, can you just, you talk about visits, yeah, which I think is a good idea because you'll be on the spot. Is there, I've just remembered now as you say that I've appeared before you in Mokwase.
Yes.
And I've appeared before the Judge President in Rustenburg Magistrate Court doing one of the big criminal matters there. Is that a deliberate thing of you going to these courts, or is it just absence of space? Or is there a conscious decision to visit while you're sitting there? Because I found, for example, that the conditions in Mokwase are quite not great in that court.
Yeah. Thank you, Commissioner. The space, there's a problem with space in Rustenburg. At first, the circuit courts were held in Rustenburg. Now it has moved to Mokwase. So it is not an impromptu decision just merely to sit wherever. But I don't think it's a bad idea, even if it is rotated, to make access to justice more accessible to our people. If we sit in Rustenburg, the people of Rustenburg, for Rustenburg matters can attend. The same apply to Mokwase, although the conditions are not conducive, but that should not deter us from taking justice to the people.
Okay, thank you. Now, my second question has to do with your, you were a member of the ANC for about 10 years before you went to the bench.
Yes, Commissioner.
Now, how will that affect at a perception level? I mean, I don't believe there's such a thing as objectivity. I think all of us bring our subjective experiences to whatever we're doing. That's why we ask for transformation, because women bring their subjective experience as women and so on.
Yes.
But independence is something completely different, which we dearly need. Yeah. Can you give an example maybe of a case which you did, which should demonstrate that despite you being a card-carrying member of a political party before your appointment, you were able to judge a matter without fear or favor and independently of that apparent subjective disposition?
Yes. Thank you, Commissioner. Judges are human beings, and yes, we come with our, what we can call biases from time to time. But a good judicial officer must be able to divorce himself or herself from the biases that may assist. Yes, I was an ANC member, but when I was elevated to the bench, I became apolitical and not political aligned to any party. I gave judgments even against the provincial government of the Northwest, which was and still is ANC-led. Your impartiality should not be compromised because of your past history. You must be able, as a judicial officer, to be impartial, to evaluate the matter and the evidence that is before you, and to dispense justice without fear, favor, or prejudice.
Thank you, Sir.
Thank you, SC. Commissioner Msomi.
Thanks, CJ. I will pass. Commissioner Singh covered what I wanted to ask. Thank you.
Thank you so much, my brother. JP Mlambo.
Thank you very much, Chief Justice. Judge Hendricks, good morning.
Good morning, Judge President.
You've acted as JP and as DJP. Have you had occasion to preside in the Northwest PEEC?
Yes, I did.
And from a leadership point of view, do you regard that as a good forum that assists in your leadership responsibilities of the division?
Yes. Judge President, when Judge President Liu was acting in the Constitutional Court in 2014, I was appointed as Judge President. By then, I had on 2 occasions presided over the PEEC meetings. That is a forum where stakeholders come together and where they can air their challenges. And it is a good forum where we can interact in order to enhance cooperation between the different stakeholders as far as the delivery of the adjudication, the judiciary is concerned.
Thank you, CJ. No further questions.
Thank you so much, JP. Commissioner Masuku.
Good morning, Judge.
Good morning, Commissioner.
There is a heightened concern around the corruption of strategic institutions, and the judiciary has not escaped perceptions that it, in certain instances, serves an agenda that may well be inimical to its core functions. What's your understanding of judicial corruption or judicial capture?
Yeah, thank you very much, Commissioner. Yeah, there are out there in the public certain perceptions with regard to corruption. The Chief Justice addressed not only on a morning live show, but also on a press conference, the issue that some of these corruption allegations are leveled against certain judges. As I understand it, the Chief Justice said if anybody has any evidence that can be presented of any wrongdoing, such people should come forward and lay the complaints with the Judicial Service Commission. It needs to be investigated. Wild allegations cannot be made which is unfounded, unsubstantiated, that the judiciary is captured. If there is evidence of corruption or capture of the judiciary, it must be brought to the fore so that it can be dealt with. The Chief Justice last Thursday in the Judicial Accountability report stated it categorically that it is not that judges are protecting other judges. If there are any wrongdoing, it should be exposed. And I am fully in support thereof. But the public must know that they cannot make unsubstantiated allegations against judges without any basis for it. It doesn't mean that if a judge decides a matter not in favor of a person, that that person would be at liberty to launch personal attacks on the integrity of the judge as well as the office that the judge is holding.
Thank you, Judge, for that answer, but that was not my question. My question was, what's your understanding of judicial corruption? Because part of the reason why you've given the answer you've given is because it may well be important for the public to know what it is that they must report in terms of corruption. So I just want to know what your understanding of, just your understanding of corruption, not what you've just answered. Because I didn't ask you about whether there are allegations of corruption. I'm just asking you to give us a conceptual understanding of what judicial corruption may well be and what you understand, a very favorite term of now judicial capture is. I wasn't talking about what the Chief Justice mentioned.
Yes. Thank you, Commissioner. Corruption, to my mind, is where a litigant will approach a judge and offer money for that judge to decide a particular, or not only a judge, but a presiding officer, to decide a particular case in a particular manner.
I understand that. That's one aspect. But would you not consider it judicial corruption where a judge, for example, makes a judgment that appears to be politically or intended to support a political position of a political party, or a judgment that, yeah, that is political.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I know classically somebody goes and offers a judge money. That's corruption, yes.
Yes.
But there is a sense that I get that there's also a situation where judges themselves perform their functions in a way that is intended to advance particular political objectives, which I would consider that to be a subversion of what the judging function is about.
That may well be an example of a judge being captured, where the judge presided over a matter and give a particular judgment in order to favor a particular political party.
I think I'll ask for coffee so that you and I can debate it.
Yes.
Justice, I will, because I think that's just more than just capture. It's corruption. It's judicial corruption. But you and I can debate this over coffee.
Thank you for the invitation, Commissioner.
Thank you, SC. I just like the answer may well be, because if you reflect on how our American colleagues decide cases, I'm not too sure what take you would have on that. Thank you, SC. Commissioner Sigogo?
Thank you, Chief Justice. Good morning, Judge. How are you?
Good morning, Commissioner.
I will need to understand your participation in as far as transformation of the legal profession is concerned before you were elevated to the bench. What role did you play there?
I was a member of NADEL. I was the coordinator in NADEL, and in NADEL, I had the opportunity to interact.
Did you have a feeling within NADEL that the legal profession as well as the judiciary must be transformed?
Yes, that was one of the aims and objectives of NADEL, that the judiciary need to be transformed, that women need to be appointed to the bench, that people that are previously excluded need to be appointed to the bench. And that is, as a member of NADEL, I was later on appointed as acting judge and then as judge. So yes.
Yes, that is what I understand as the role played by NADEL, and which it is still playing today.
Yes.
That is why organizations like the BLA supported even your candidature this time around.
Yes, thank you.
But I want you to take this commission along in terms of your improvement from your previous interview. You were asked this question by Commissioner Nyambi. In the previous interview, Commissioner Professor Mtshekga asked you in detail about women representation on the bench. And he went to the extent of wanting to understand if it is your understanding that 50-50 was an ideal situation or it was a minimum. So I want to know now, because I was not satisfied with your answer back then, I want to know now, what is your position?
Yes. Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner, I've reconsidered my answer with regard to that ideal situation. We are constitutionally obligated to transform the judiciary and to have more women appointed to the bench. In doing so, one need to identify possible candidates which can be mentored from a very early stage and be mentored for permanent appointment to the bench. The judiciary needs to be transformed as far as gender is concerned. In the previous accountability report by the Chief Justice, it is indicated how many women are appointed to the bench. It is not nearly sufficient or enough. Much more need to be done.
Thank you, Chief Justice.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Portfolio Committee Chair, it's your turn, sir.
Thank you, Chief Justice. Good morning, Judge Hendricks.
Good morning, Commissioner.
What do you think should be the role of the judiciary in dealing with overcrowding in our correctional facilities?
I can't hear.
What do you think should be the role of the judiciary in dealing with overcrowding in our correctional facilities?
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner, there are different sentencing options that can be imposed. It is not that any offender or each and every offender should be sent to jail. There are other forms of punishment that can be meted out, which can drastically reduce the number of overcrowding in the prisons.
Thank you so much. Are you done, sir, or do you have another question? Oh, please proceed. Please.
Thanks. Clearly, the magistrates in particular are not coming on board.
Sorry, Commissioner, I can't hear you.
I'm saying clearly the magistrates in most cases are not coming on board. In your capacity, if you are appointed as Deputy Judge President, what do you think will be your role in ensuring that all stakeholders play their role in ensuring that we deal with overcrowding in our correctional facilities?
First of all, as far as magistrates are concerned, there can be training offered on an ongoing basis, especially with regard to sentencing. There is also problems that are experienced from time to time with the overcrowding of prisons, and people who are eligible for parole can be released on parole depending on the circumstances of each case. So all role players can definitely contribute to alleviate the pressure on the prison services for people who are incarcerated.
Thank you. I think here I've confused myself. I'm not sure whether it was Honorable Kaba or Honorable Muemang who raised the hand, or it was you, sir. Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Chief Justice. Good morning, Judge Hendricks.
Good morning, Commissioner. Can you please raise your voice? I don't know whether I'm hard of hearing. Or is something wrong with the mics? I can hardly hear.
two questions. The first one relates to you labeling the majority judgment in Pilane liberal.
I can't hear you, Commissioner.
I'm saying that the first one relates to your view that the majority judgment in Pilane is liberal. Don't you think that the Concord judgment was asserting the security of tenure and the land rights to the people of Bakata Bakafela that are organized under the CPA? The second one relates to the objections that was raised by Mr. Munsiwa. If you are appointed, definitely you will constitute the leadership of that division. What is it that a judge can do as a parent to rescue this young person that is full of energy with potential, who I suspect he's aggrieved because of his principal withdrawing his task to send him to the division of the Northwest? He has a lot of potential. Thank you, Chief Justice.
Yeah. First of all, with regard to the Constitutional Court judgment, yes, the Constitutional Court majority did decide in favor of the CPF and the rights of the people of Bakatla. With regard to, I don't know, the parenting of Mr. Monshiwa.
Maybe before you get there, the question was, you used the word liberal. Don't you think the court was simply asserting the constitutional rights of the people?
Yes, yeah. I perhaps the word liberal is a bit strong in this context. But it was asserting, the Constitutional Court was asserting the rights of the people in order to meet and then challenge whatever the chieftainship of the Bakatla. With regard to the parenting of Mr. Manchua, I'm in a bit of a difficult position because I don't know Mr. Manchua personally. I only had a dealing with him when his matter was in front of me. I don't know what can be done to parent him in order to channel his energy, as you put it, Commissioner. Perhaps a practitioner or a firm of attorneys can step in and maybe take Mr. Monshiwa under their auspices in order to mentor him, in order to guide him. I'm not sure whether a judge can do that.
But if he were to approach you, if he were to be willing to be guided and mentored by you, would you reject him or embrace him?
No, I don't have any personal problems with Mr. Monshiwa. So if, as a person, he approached me to embrace him, yes, I can accede to a request. Or I can even direct him to a person or persons to assist him if he is willing and able to do it.
President Maya, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Chief Justice. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm fine, President. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks. I just want to follow up on a comment that was made by Commissioner Mbofu. I think he said because we are interviewing you for a leadership vacancy, we are more concerned with your skills, your administrative skills, rather than your intellectual prowess. You did not disagree with him. Is my sense right? Do you agree with that view?
The view that?
That because you are this is a leadership position. We should not bother ourselves much about your intellectual prowess and should focus on your administrative
That's
skills.
not what I said.
No.
That's why he agreed with me.
Well,
yes. Can I comment?
Please.
Yes. No, it's not only about the organizational skills or the managerial skills. It's also about intellectual capacity and leadership in a position as Deputy Judge President requires intellectual leadership. You are there to guide the other judges. They look up to you for guidance. They come to you for advice. I mentor acting judges. Anything and everything to do with intellectual intelligence. I can't leave that at home when I'm at work.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. And in addition to what you've just enumerated, you are expected as well to take the most complicated cases yourself and lead from the front in the courtroom itself.
Yeah, that is exactly what has been done, Commissioner. Thank you very much.
Yes. Thank you, President. Just to round up, between Afrikaans and English, where lies your strength?
I'm an Afrikaans-speaking person.
Yes.
I was born and raised
as an
Afrikaans-speaking person.
Okay. Now, there used to be court performance challenges in the regional court and district court of Molopo. Has the situation improved?
Yes, Chief Justice. We at a PEC meeting of the 6th of September, there were reports which indicates that there is a vast improvement.
At some stage, and very much in line with the clarity that the president of the SCA was seeking from you,
yes,
there was a concern about court leaders, some court leaders at district court, regional court level, never going to court, but just sitting in their offices or traveling.
Yes.
Is that still a problem, or has it ceased to be? I know I had a confrontation with them as soon as I took office. Say, if I write judgment, so should you. Has the situation improved?
The situation has changed. Chief Justice, I'm well aware of the fact that was also, if I may put it this way, a change of guard, especially with regard to the regional court.
Yes.
So the situation is now different.
What about the problem of a regional court magistrate from, say, Rustenburg, having to drive all the way to Vryburg or Taung, while the regional court magistrate from that direction traveling all the way to Rustenburg to go and do cases?
Yeah.
Allegedly for the purpose of claiming S&T. Has it been addressed, or is it still a problem?
I spoke to one of the regional court magistrates about this, Mr. Mogotsi, who assured me that that practice has ceased to exist.
Yes.
It's no longer there. It used to be there, but it has been addressed, Chief Justice.
Yes. Now, at some point, and I'm not aware where the situation is now, a member of the public who has a case in Lihurutsi,
yes,
would have to pass through Zeerast to go to Lihurutsi for a case, because in line with the apartheid regime, Zeerast was for the people in town and the people in the township. Those in the villages had to go to the Abuputatswana court.
Yes.
Has that situation been remedied, or is the position still the same?
No, it has changed. The courts are now servicing the area in which they are located. Lihurutsi serve Lihurutsi and Zeerast serve the Zeerast area. So as Groot Mariko will serve Groot Mariko as a periodical court.
Yes.
Yes.
How many judges do you think are required to serve the people of the Northwest properly, so that there is no avoidable delay of justice to the people?
Thank you, Judge President, Chief Justice. I
So abandon that position.
Yeah, maybe it's because of
Yes.
where we come from.
Yes.
Yeah, Chief Justice, in my view, at least a complement of 2 more judges to have 8 in number may well serve the Northwest Province. If I'm appointed as a Deputy Judge President, surely there will be another vacancy. So I think including the Judge President and the Deputy Judge President with 6 other judges, we may well be able to serve the people and serve the people of the Northwest effectively.
Have you discussed it with the JP, or is it just your own thought?
That is my own view.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
Maybe the JP would want more judges.
Yes,
Yes.
No,
I'm not
thank you.
sure.
Thank you so much, Judge Hendricks. You're excused.
Thank you very much, Chief Justice and Commissioners, for the opportunity. I really thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.